Quando mi sveglio per salutare il sol, quando esco nella città, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Quando rido e quando piango, nei malintesi e nell'amore, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Sono tuo per l'eternità, Dio, tuo per l'eternità. Nella sconfitta, nella vittoria, nella vita intorno a me, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel lavoro e nel riposo, nella gioia e nel dolore, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Sono tuo per l'eternità, Dio, tuo per l'eternità. Quando mi sveglio per salutare il sol, quando esco nella città, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Quando rido e quando piango, nei malintesi e nell'amore, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Sono tuo per l'eternità, Dio, tuo per l'eternità. Nella sconfitta, nella vittoria, nella vita intorno a me, nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. Nel lavoro e nel riposo, nella gioia e nel dolore, nel silenzio del mio cuore, Signore, penserò solo a te. Nel silenzio del mio cuore, Signore, penserò solo a te. Sono tuo per l'eternità, Dio, Dio, tuo per l'eternità, Dio, Dio, sono tuo per l'eternità, Dio. Per l'eternità.
In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Yogananda repeatedly talked about keeping God in one's heart and one's mind throughout the day, and Quando Mi Sveglio really reflects that sentiment. Now, the fact that this thinking is silent also suggests that it's not so much thinking in words or anything like that, but more of just a feeling, a feeling in the heart, a feeling in the consciousness. In one of Yogananda's early lessons that was called The Aesthetic Way to Cosmic Consciousness, he speaks repeatedly of feeling God in your heart, feeling God in others, feeling God all around you in every moment, as expressed in the chant that he shares in that lesson of, I will sing thy name, I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name and get all drunk with thy name. I will dance through hearts, I will dance through lives and sing thy name and sing thy name. But as often happens in the lyrics, the most accurate word doesn't necessarily sound right. You know, it doesn't work here in Quando Mi Sveglio to say, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always feel thee. That's really, I think, what's being said here, but people relate much better to, I will always think of thee, I will be present with thee. A devotee, though, really should concentrate on feeling God as a living presence and not just thinking about God. And in fact, that's something that we learn on the spiritual path a lot, is to just not talk about God as an abstract concept or a thing that's separate from us, but to feel God's presence as our nearest and dearest, as Yogananda would say. Now, with feeling, it's also very clear that the heart spoken of in this song is both the heart chakra, where we naturally feel love and devotion as expressed in the song, but also the hearts or the centers of each of the other chakras in the spine. And with that then, the message is saying, in every chakra of my spine, O Lord, I will feel thy presence. I will direct the energies of each chakra upward in devotion to thee, bringing that energy to wholly concentrate on thee at the spiritual eye. That's, I think, what's deeply implied here. It's really said by the thinking, which is to say directing all of one's energies all along the spine upwards in meditation. Now, the Italian words, the original words, because the song was originally written in Italian, make the meaning more clear, and if I can do it right, Nel silenzio del mio cuor, Signor, penserò solo a te. The direct translation of that is, in the silence of my heart, Lord, I'll think only of you. Now, that word only, which doesn't make it into the English translation, implies concentration, doesn't it? As one does in meditation. The English is close, saying, I will always think of thee, but it's not quite as strongly exclusive, because thinking only of God, which is to say, concentrating on His presence alone, is the real intended affirmation here. The first verse of the song also naturally resonates with the heart chakra and touches a little on the lower three chakras, so we're getting all those different hearts involved here. Every morning when I greet the sun, when I move forth through crowded ways. Now that wakefulness is, and moving about within the material world suggests outward engagement, doesn't it? Including movement of the limbs, which are associated with the lower centers, the legs with the lower chakras and the arms with the heart. This verse then is saying, as before, O Lord, when I go out into the world, let the hearts of those chakras, the centers of all the spine here, let all of the hearts of all those chakras feel your presence. And the Italian words, again, in fact, express this sentiment more clearly. I think if I can get it right. Quando mi sveglio per salutare il sol, quando esco nella città, which translates directly to when I wake up and greet the sun, when I leave to be in the city. I like that translation because it's when I leave to go be somewhere else, when I'm present somewhere else, not just when I'm moving forth through crowded ways, as the English is, but when I leave to be in the city. I have to be there, but I'm going to continue my presence inwardly. You know, and Yogananda's poem, God, 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 has a lot of that same kind of sentiment, very similar in this regard to this idea of when, you know, every morning when I greet the sun, when I move forth through crowded ways, my heart will sing God, God, God. The second verse then transitions the energy from the heart chakra and the lower chakras, or bringing the energy up, as we generally always do in Ananda music, to the expansiveness then of the throat chakra. When I laugh, oh, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand. And let's see if I can get it right. Quando rido e quando piango malintesi e nell'amor, which is, to translate that directly, I'm giving the English, then the Italian, then the direct translation of the Italian, which is when I laugh and when I cry in misunderstandings and in love. There's a little more going on here than the English translation again, because these words reflect that pains are usually reflected in the heart chakra, including loneliness. But by turning those energies up toward God, saying, affirming again, I will always feel thy presence, I'll think only of thee, you'll find then lasting inner comfort. In other words, living in Om, you'll always have the Comforter with you. And then we have the chorus. So we have two verses and then the chorus. Dear God, my God, I am thine for eternity. And dear God, my God, I am thine eternally, which in Italian is Dio, Dio, sono tuo per l'eternità. Dio, Dio, tuo per l'eternità. The translation of which is, God, God, I am yours for eternity. God, God, yours for eternity. There's a little chord in the chorus that's not simply a happy major chord. I'm not sure exactly what the chord is, but it introduces a little dissonance that resonates with the medulla here, the medulla oblongata, which is the seat, again, of the ego, as you know, the chakras in the spine. And I found it to be true in many cases that a bit of conflict with a chord like that typically resonates with the part of the spine where we experience the struggle between the little self and the greater self, between the ego and the divine consciousness that's trying to wake up within us. And in this case, though, that resonance serves to lift the energy from the throat chakra, so it's not necessarily negative, it's taking all the energy that we've brought up to here through the first two verses and bringing it to the medulla, which is still an upward movement at that point. And then we can go into the third verse, which purifies the ego at the medulla, affirming our love for God no matter what befalls us. Though my path lead me over desert sand, though it take me through bitter storms. Again, the original Italian is somewhat stronger because it clearly makes the contrast between the ups and downs. It goes, Nella sconfitta, nella vittoria, nella vita intorno a me. In defeat, in victory, in the life of me. I sometimes just love the simplicity of the Italian and the power of it. Because these words really, in short, in defeat and victory, in the life of me, it helps the ego here at the medulla to surrender its idea of what should happen, to surrender its likes and its dislikes, and to offer itself up into the divine at the spiritual eye. And it's from there then that we can affirm in the fourth verse that we simply love God. Again, it's as in the last verse of that poem, God, 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 where that one starts in waking, eating, sleeping, working, dreaming, serving, meditating, divinely loving. It's got the whole list of different activities. And in the English of version of this song, we get the victory and defeat idea, but in the Italian, we get that, like it says, in the life of me, we also get then the idea of joys and sorrows. So the English, when I'm working and when in earned repose, let come victory or low defeat. The Italian is nel lavoro e nel riposo, nella gioia e nel dolor. The translation of which is in work, in rest, in joy, in sorrow. So victory and defeat are kind of strong, but the joy and sorrow is a little more subtle about the heart, not the outer experience, but our experience of the victory and the defeat. But the song really here is telling us that no matter what happens, keep your focus here at the spiritual eye, and really everything will be fine. And now we repeat the chorus once more, which keeps the energy up here at the spiritual eye, even with that little discord I mentioned. And in performances, often we will repeat the chorus again, even to relax further into meditation at that point. And then, interestingly, as in the recording from Evening in Italy, Ananda singing this song that we've heard here, if the song is sung through again, we're repeating everything from the point here at the spiritual eye. This is a common occurrence, a common theme in Ananda music, where we raise the energy through the spine in the first pass through a song, get it up here to the spiritual eye, from which we then repeat the song to see everything from that higher divine perspective, essentially making another round through all the chakras in the spine to lift their energy even more and to purify them even more completely. Now, overall, the mood of this song, especially Kriyananda's version here, sung with both Italian and English, is very warming and soothing and comforting. And I think really comfort is the primary vibration and consciousness of the song, like the warm comfort of a blanket that comes when you continually feel God in every experience, no matter where you are, no matter what is happening. You know, I remember some of my sweetest moments that I have with God can just be when doing something mundane, like shopping for groceries, being somewhere, just moving forth through crowded ways, being somewhere in the world, but just being inside and taking that moment to feel God's presence. It can be very sweet. And so with this thought, I would think that performances of the song, I Will Always Think of Thee, should generally try to be a little bit inward, not too outwardly boisterous, but rather focusing on being calm and soothing. And that might be hard to do with a big choir, because it can get very boisterous, but it's really worth the effort to try to express clearly that sense of comfort, that sense of soothing. So then we can ask ourselves, well, what is the opposite consciousness to all of this? And several things come to mind. There's, first of all, a cold reliance on our little self, or the ego, as well as excessive concerns over details and trying to personally and individually control every little detail. So the opposite of the I will always think of thee idea would be, well, I'll think of God when I get my life in order, when I retire, when I get a new sofa, you name it, right? You know the drill, that to be enmeshed in the negative emotions of worry and angst, of putting happiness somewhere out in the future. And so this song works as a consciousness to those particular qualities, as an antidote to those qualities, I should say. And it also then works to relieve just the heaviness of suffering, especially the suffering that comes from the belief that God and the universe are cold and uncaring. That's opposite from comfort, isn't it? That because the song says that, no matter what, bring God into it, and He will, as the Bhagavad Gita says, make good your deficiencies and render permanent your gains. And it's also like that line from the ceremony, the Festival of Light, where it says, whereas suffering and sorrow in the past were the coin of man's redemption, for us now the payment has been exchanged for calm acceptance and joy. These thoughts are clearly in the song, to accept the joys and sorrows, accept the victories and defeats, accept the hurts and the misunderstandings, accept the need to go out into the world to fulfill your dharma. Accept all of these, and you can overcome so many sorrows in that bit of acceptance that's there. As it also says in the Festival of Light, quoting again from the Gita, even a little practice of this inward religion, which is to say directing all the energies of the spine inward and then upward toward God, will free one, as the festival continues, from dire fears and colossal sufferings. And it's really true, and it really is as simple as letting a song like this do its magic. So I think that I will always think of the Quando Mi Sveglio can also work for irritation with God, which is, sometimes a thing that devotees, even loving God, we can become irritated with God. We can become rather frustrated that our expectations, however delusional they may be, are not being fulfilled. We might be annoyed with God's apparent aloofness, of somehow staying away from us. But we get stuck in that thought of, God doesn't come to me. Why doesn't he reveal himself? But the truth is, as we say many times, God is always present, not only around us, but in the heart of every atom in our bodies. Every bit of our consciousness is infused with God's presence already. So it's us. We need to make ourselves more aware of that constant presence by attuning ourselves to it, which means to put ourselves into vibrational alignment with that reality of God. And that's what the thinking of God, the focus on feeling God, really accomplishes, that we get in this song. In my heart, Lord, in the heart of every atom of myself and all of creation, in the hearts of every center of my spine, yes, Lord, I will be aware of thy eternal presence. And in that awareness, I will realize that you've been forever the nearest of the near and the dearest of the dear. That's the consciousness that helps us realize that irritation with God is entirely misplaced, and that we should really be only irritated with ourselves for really being such fools, as the song Love is a Magician says, what a fool I was to turn away. But even then, it's best to cast aside that irritation altogether and just dwell in God's presence. As Sri Yukteswar said, forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames, which is to say that all time up to this very moment is dark with many shames, right? Up to this very present moment. And many moments of forgetfulness with God we've had in those. But as he continues, everything in future will improve if you are making the right spiritual effort now, which is to say the right effort to feel God. So Quando Mi Sveglio, I will always think of thee, very, very helpful in this regard, and so beautiful in its simplicity that I think it could even be part of a ceremony like the Festival of Light, because it is so powerful in the same way that the festival offers. But whatever the case may be, it's certainly worth learning by heart, learning to sing it, making it part of every day that you live, especially if you can learn to feel the deep devotion of devotion to God in this, especially as expressed through the Italian lyrics. So especially if you're not Italian, definitely learn the Italian words, learn to sing those, and you'll just find that your heart flowers in an openness of devotion.
Every morning when I greet the sun, when I move forth through crowded ways, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. When I laugh, oh, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. Dear God, my God, I am thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am thine eternally. Though my path lead me over deserts sands, though it take me through bitter storms, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. When I'm working and when in earned repose, that come victory or low defeat. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always